everybody. Welcome back to another edition of False Flag. It is me, Sonny Bunch. I'm here with Will Sommer, the author of the newsletter, which everybody should be reading. Go to thebulwark.com. Sign up for Bulwark Plus. Sign up for False Flag. You're going to want to read this one today because it's a fun one. RFK Jr. is a known gadget man. He loves his gadgets. You see him all the time on Twitter and the such, hawking different things that he is selling. But he's on a new warpath. Will, what are the gadgets he's after now?
Yeah, so these are wearables. And so this is kind of the broadly defined, like fitness wearables, whether it's Fitbits or Apple Watches, all the way to glucose monitors that are more attached to the body. And this is an interesting one because it's provoked a real backlash from the sort of Make America Healthy Again base that he represents. Earlier this week, he appeared at a congressional hearing. He was talking about how he's going to unleash at HHS one of the biggest ad campaigns ever to make people think wearables are cool. And that's exactly what the contract language says, to make wearables cool.
Wearables are cool.
You might say,
I wear a wearable.
Weird. Why is the government so focused on this? But he imagines basically that it'll make people skinnier because, particularly if you have the glucose monitor, if you eat a sandwich and your glucose spikes, you say, oh my gosh, I got to stop eating all these carbs or something. Which, you know, whatever, I guess was my initial reaction. But it set off a huge amount of outrage from his supporters.
Let's, give them some credit here, a question mark, because I do think that, like, this is a moment of consistency on their part. They don't want the government tracking their behavior. They don't want the government to know where they are. They don't want government to know what they're eating. And this is one of these, like, kind of shocker. Kennedy has a big government idea that they're like, whoa, we didn't sign up for this. We just want you to tell us that it's okay to let our kids get measles.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. I should say his specific quote was, he said something along the lines of, by the end of this administration, the end of this 4 years, I want every American wearing a wearable, which is, pretty extreme. And so that alarmed a lot of people. And as you said, I think they do have a point here. And, I think you can imagine if a Democrat had gotten up and said, I want every American wearing a GPS-fitted wristband that's going to track their movements and all their personal health data, you would say, oh my gosh, this is Stalin. And yet this is something that I think the Trump administration is fine promoting, apparently. And so their reaction ranges from, the crazy. There are some InfoWars guests who are saying that this is the mark of the beast. Although certainly I think if a Democrat proposed it, a lot more people would be saying that. All the way to saying, what is this about my data privacy? Why is it the government's job to be promoting this? It'd be like if there was a government ad campaign that we all need to get smartphones or something. And then, they're saying, well, what are the radio frequencies? This is kind of a more Maha type thing. What kind of energy is being emitted from this technology? Which, I don't think is really proven, but certainly if you operate in RFK world, that's not really an issue for him typically. So it made me curious. There was a big backlash from some big Maha names who were saying, what is going on here? And so it made me curious, well, what was going on here?
What's interesting is the idea that they're going to spend, what was it, $10 to $20 million? $10
to $20 million, yeah.
Yeah, of government money to make wearables cool, which if I am sitting in the Cupertino offices of Apple and I'm looking at my Apple Watch, I'm thinking, this is the worst idea I've ever heard. Because you know who's good at making things look cool? Is Apple. Apple's very good at making things look cool. And the idea that they are now going to be kind of tarred with this RFK Jr. brush of craziness has to be a little bit concerning to them.
Finally, the nation's arbiter of cool, the Health and Human Services Secretary, will step in. On the other hand, some people connected to RFK maybe could use the marketing boost. And I'm talking specifically about the brother and sister duo of Casey and Callie Means. So Casey Means, and I tend to mix them up, Casey Means is the brother, and he's a close RFK advisor. He's been called his right-hand man. Vanity Fair had a great profile that really kind of demolished his backstory as, he claimed to be a soda lobbyist who kind of saw the light and came to love wellness. But basically, he has a company that their deal is they help you use your health savings accounts to buy gadgets, like wearables, like health gadgets. And so you can essentially get a doctor's approval or something to buy a Peloton. And so he would, I would say, benefit from an increase in public the public profile of health wearables. And then in the case of Callie Means, who is Trump's Surgeon General nominee, and is already kind of widely reviled by the Maha base because they don't see her as like anti-vaccine enough. She co-founded a company that has an app that is very focused on like health data, and one of the things they offer for a mere $200 a month is that if you get a glucose monitor, it will monitor your glucose. And that struck me as interesting because in this testimony, RFK doesn't say you should all get a Fitbit. I want everyone hitting 10,000 steps a week, or get a Garmin and go on a run. He says specifically talking about glucose monitoring. And so that makes me think that this is really aimed at promoting the kind of device that links up with Callie Means' company.
Yeah, that jumped out at me too. The price tag on this thing, $200 a month. Who's going to be paying for this? They want to get customers. They want the taxpayer subsidizing this to the tune of $200 a month, or they want people to buy these things and then pay the $200 a month out of pocket. Like, what's the goal here?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't know how much insurance interacts with it. Certainly the Means family is very interested in health savings accounts as well. But, it's just kind of crazy to me that, like, this wearables thing is so linked up with RFK, and then he's unveiling what he's describing as, like, the biggest HHS ad campaign ever to promote this product, or this range of products linked to their business. It'd be kind of like if Trump was like, we're going to have this tourism campaign about how great Palm Beach is, there's a really obvious business connection, and that hasn't been lost on the sort of the Maha movement, who are saying, it seems like RFK is just really into this one family's business, and now he's using it to promote it. And the other thing I would say about this ad campaign is that the turnaround time for the contracting is really short. Sat News reported on it. It was like 2 weeks or something, which is really quick for a government contract. So it makes you wonder if they were just like, oh my gosh, we did an ad campaign and just get it out there.
Yeah. So the influencers are outraged by this, which is kind of interesting because that is his base in a real way. I mean, his base is that, like, kind of nut job right that is very into some of the weird health stuff. If he loses them, does he risk losing his kind of nexus of power?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a real issue for them. I mean, on one hand, he is also very much on the warpath against vaccines, which they like, unfortunately. But I do think this is like something that resonates. The idea that the government is promoting, like, in the least invasive way, that we all wear technological wristbands that track our location and all the way up to the glucose monitor, which is more invasive. That is, I think, something that could have staying power if he sticks with it. Just today I was seeing, people are calling them medical shackles, or, and there's also this idea that can the government say, well, insurance companies are incentivized to make you get these, or maybe you'll get a discount on your insurance, stuff like that. So there's a lot of concerns about it, and I could see this sticking around as an issue for him.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's one thing to be like, people should wear a Fitbit and monitor their walking. The idea of, again, the idea of some sort of massive government program to get everybody to keep an eye on their blood sugar levels, it's just weird, man. There's, like, I don't understand who is falling for this or who thinks it's a good idea.
The other thing I would say is, you might say, like, oh, this is like Big Brother stuff. Everyone's being so paranoid. Who cares if RFK Jr. might have access to your data? But this is a guy who literally said, for people with health issues, maybe if you're overweight, you have ADHD, you have a drug addiction, we should just send them to these camps. And, these government-run wellness camps until they're better. And, that sounds pretty ominous. And so maybe uniquely among previous HHS secretaries, this is a guy who, it doesn't seem like it's that big a leap to say this guy has, like, really invasive goals for Americans' health in terms of, like, mass data.
The vision of sending everybody off to a heavyweight style. Anybody remember the movie?
I wish. Oh, a classic.
Ben Stiller as the evil camp counselor. Great movie. Played on a loop on HBO when I was a kid. The idea of sending everybody off to a heavyweight style, kind of fat camp, basically, for failing to live up to RFK's specification of healthiness is insane, obviously, and frankly unlikely to happen. Even if RFK wanted to do it, there's no way he could. But the simple fact that he has amassed such a base of following from people who would otherwise, kind of go insane if anybody else suggested it, strikes me as really troubling. I don't like it one bit.
Yeah, I think we might be able to have a little coalition here with the Maha gang. Because, I think they have the intensity, the fanaticism, and then just, we're more, I think, normal people, and just say, it's just a little odd to me, that why is RFK so into this? But he's very into it, so I don't know, maybe he's going to be one of those guys with kind of like the multiple bands and gets the sleep ring and just is all the gear.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. One quick thing. You also mentioned in your newsletter a little tiff between the Liver King and Joe Rogan. Now, does the Liver King fall into the Maha type movement? I mean, he seems at the very least Maha adjacent with his bizarre raw liver diet that has aged him hundreds of years in the course of about 5. He looks terrible. But he is on the warpath against Joe Rogan. What's going on there?
Yeah, so brief introduction to the Liver King. I mean, this is a guy who looks sort of like a caveman, if a caveman had a gym and steroids. And he was a big thing a few years ago because he looked so ripped, and he said, I don't use steroids, but I get so ripped because I eat such weird meats, including livers. I eat like gallbladders, who knows? I mean, he looks incredibly red as well. And so then it came out that he was using steroids very predictably. And then he's kind of been spinning out ever since. And so earlier this week, Liver King, I think he detached his retina. I was watching some of his more recent videos. He was like, the retina is not doing good. And he went to Austin, and he was posting these videos like, I want to brawl with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, some are calling him a wimp for not accepting the challenge on the right. But basically, someone got the police to arrest Liver King for making threats. And so in terms of where he fits in, he fits into kind of this broader, like holistic, like we need to like go back to the land, we need to like rediscover the old ways. He, in a way, his downfall was kind of like before Maha really took off, because his downfall was in 2022. But I do think he certainly fits into that world. And to that point, I really loved in the newsletter, I mentioned that the news of Liver King's arrest was delivered by Alex Jones, who really sort of sits at the confluence of like Austin culture and like lunacy and hucksterism. And he said, the police are en route to arrest the Liver King. He looks extremely deranged. And so that's your Liver King update. But it really is. It's certainly a weird world, this Maha community. A lot of money's to be made as well.
Does the Liver King have a wearable? Do we know if he is rocking a glucose monitor or a Fitbit or an Apple Watch?
It's a big old liver. It's a liver. You slap it on, and maybe you get some osmosis. The one other thing I should mention here about the Liver King, as long as we have this kind of like Maha themed episode, is that he did ayahuasca. And a lot of people, there's a growing belief on the right that ayahuasca, obviously a very intense hallucinogen, that it will one-shot you. So it will drive you mad. Yes.
He got one-shotted by the ayahuasca.
By ayahuasca. And so a lot of people were saying, Liver King got one-shotted by ayahuasca. So I think this is an interesting thread to watch, this growing belief that basically ayahuasca perhaps opens a portal to another dimension, a demon comes in, maybe never leaves.
Well, now you've got your next newsletter, because I want to know if the demon can get into the wearable after doing ayahuasca. You've got like a little demon on your wrist telling you to eat sandwiches. That could be bad. You don't want that. Oh boy. All right, I gotta stop there, otherwise I'm gonna get real silly. Will, thank you for discussing the Maha wearable movement. Make sure to like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed it. Send it to a friend. Everybody needs to know about the wearable menace that's headed our way. And go sign up at the Bulwark. Go to thebulwark.com. Sign up for all the newsletters over there. You want this sort of thing in your news. I mean, maybe you don't want it, but you need it in your inbox a couple times a week from Will. Thanks, Will.
Because my dog hates loud noises so much, I always put earmuffs on him before we pull our Christmas crackers.
Please do. All right. What type of dog do you have?
I have a British Bulldog.
The dog don't mind having these on his ears?
No, not at all.
How old is your dog?
He's 2.
If I've got a new dog,
and we're having Christmas dinner and he don't like the bang, I'll just put him in another room. So why am I going to put in all the effort to kind of teach him to put his earmuffs on?
Oh, why would you, like, okay, so...
Did you say teach him to put the earmuffs on?
I mean,
I don't think she's suggesting, oi, Bonzo, we're about to pull again, stick them on. The dog's going,
okay, right. Okay, Lee,
Oh, shit, come on. Oh.